Welcome to Career Cafe, Dr.
Thank you,
Diwan.
Pervin.
What a pleasure. You
Same
must
here.
have tons of energy, to have done so much work.
Absolutely. Energy is required to run good institutions as well.
Absolutely. So tell us, I mean, when we talk of the energy sector, what all does it comprise of?
Well, energy sector is, a very large segment, and different people have different conceptions about it depending on what they see or what they feel or what they touch. But if we look into the continuum of energy, at the core is what we call oil and gas sector.
Okay.
In oil and gas sector also you start with exploring oil, discovering oil, which is called the crude oil, and which comes out of the Mother Earth as formation of geological formations over many, many billions of years. Once you extract oil or the crude oil, you need to refine it for use in day-to-day life. So then comes what is called the sector of refineries. So crude oil goes to refineries, it gets distilled into petroleum, into petrol for car, diesel for trucks or buses, or ATF for flying the planes, and many other fractions for use, including the LPG, which household uses. Then comes the sector of what is called the larger energy sector, and this oil and gas products are also used for producing power or the electricity. So traditionally in the past, coal was only the mean, now it is oil. Now naturally for the greener energy, it's the gas-based power plants. So then you produce what is called electricity and energy, and that drives the further sector. Also what's happening in the recent times, because of paucity of fossil fuels and also the environmental concern, there is need for what is called renewable sources of energy. And that is what comes through sun, through wind. So we have now huge solar farms coming up to produce solar energy, windmills to have wind energy, and many other ways like geothermal in the hill areas, or coastal energy or tidal energy. So there are many forms of alternative energy which are renewable.
So why is it called sustainable energy?
Because it does not get ended. So as long as sun
you
lives,
can
you can sustain. As long wind blows,
Yes.
you can sustain it. But the coal is going to end some point in time, if not in our generation, maybe generation of our grandchildren or thereabouts. But wind and sun, as long as the earth exists, will continue to flow and shine. So that's why it's called sustainable or renewable, that it self-renews every. Then there's another aspect of energy which is called the nuclear energy.
That's right.
Harnessing the power of atoms and rare earths, and have fission reactions which will produce heat, and heat then runs the generation systems. So that's in a nutshell, you can say, and then each has its own opportunities for career.
So now a young person, as somebody who's done science, physics, chemistry, maths, for instance, at the school level, and he's looking at doing an engineering course in the energy sector.
Yes.
So how should he be looking at courses? What sort of courses should he be looking at? Broad spectrum or specific?
Well, there was a time, and as you introduced yourself about me, I was a chemical engineer, or is a chemical engineer. But then only I became really productive to work for those oil and gas industry companies. But today what the proposition is, and there is time is of really paramount importance. People want that we recruit a person, he should be productive from day one or day zero. So that's where this domain specific, company specific, industry specific courses come into play. So to take your question further, if I'm a PCM high school student, and I'm interested in energy sector, then I have multitude of choices. Let's say if I'm very inclined towards geosciences or geology or how the earth got made, then there are geoscience oriented courses which looks into the exploration aspect, where to find oil, where to discover oil. So we and some other universities also offer what is called geoscience engineering or geoinformatics, geophysics or geotechnical or geomatics. There are many names, but there are fine line differences. If you're inclined towards more chemical and those kind of things, there is the petroleum engineering side, and it's a very amalgamation of not just the chemical, mechanical, bit of geology. So it's a multidisciplinary course, and these are the guys who, once the geologists or geoscience people have discovered the oil, they will do the digging, extract, put it into pipelines. And then there are more traditional or more chemical engineering oriented, the refining and petrochemicals course, where one wishes to convert those crude oil to. So that is the another line. Let's say somebody does not like chemistry or there's too much and is hardcore physics and maths person, then there is the sources in the power sector. You can become an electrical engineer or a power systems engineering and get into the power industry. So that's another. Or now these days there are branches, or at least at the master's level there are courses which specializes in energy systems, which look into energy conservation, production of energy through renewable sources, energy audits, So this is a multidisciplinary course. You can come from BTech in chemical,
and
then take the masters, which is multidisciplinary masters, and then gets you into larger sustainable, renewable energy career.
So when it comes to the energy, industry recruiting candidates, do they prefer those who've done their specializations at the master's level, or are they okay with BTech?
Well, depends on what kind of industry. Let's say if it's a normal discovery, production, manufacturing, operations, then a BTech qualifications generally okay. But if you get into more specialized, let's say there are some certain courses that our university offers, which are we call super specialized at a master's level. That's a pipeline engineering. This country is building a lot of pipelines, east, west, north, south, gas pipelines, crude pipelines, heated pipelines. So there was a discipline need for pipeline engineers. Did not exist before. So those are the kind of courses which does require a master's program, that after BTech from multiple, so in this program also you can come from a chemical engineering route or a mechanical route or a civil engineering route and build the pipelines for the nation. So these are the kind of courses.
So what should a student do? Do a BTech, then maybe work in the industry for a bit and then look at a master's, or
well, it depends on two ways. You know, the route which you are suggesting, let's say he works in the industry and then comes for a master's degree, that is more amenable for a business degree.
Okay.
Let's say there
you
are
want to do an MBA,
there are options certain options that we and some of our other fellow universities offer, which is the oil and gas MBA or a power sector MBA or a aviation sector MBA. So you work after undergrad degree for a couple of years, come back to the stream, get a more business and economics study put in, and become at a commercial or a higher order, get into some of the strategic thinking skills or business development skills and move your career on a faster track. But MTech can be done both ways. Today also, if you look into our student base, some of them have come straight out of their BTech. Some of them even, you know, we have a very curious mix of certain students who go to Gulf, work 2-3 years, come back, get a super specialized degree from us and go to much higher level. So with a master's degree in a super specialized field of petroleum exploration or pipeline or health safety environmental engineering, they go back to Gulf region or the other and maybe double up their salary. So that is the power of some of the specialized degrees that we have on offer.
So is most of the work outdoors?
Not really, actually. That's a very interesting phenomena. In the past, it was, you know, rough and tough.
Yes.
That you got to climb derricks and have a hammer and sickle in hand.
Right.
But of late, it has also become technologically oriented. And more so, you know, most oil and gas, now we have a very interesting challenge that some students says we want to go core, we don't want to go non-core. The definition of core and non-core is vanishing. Core was that you work directly for oil and gas.
Right.
In this world of outsourcing, even the biggest 5 companies in the world, which are the Chevrons and Exxon Mobils of this world, have outsourced work to our Infosys, our Wipro, our L&T IT, and huge number, and it's all work which is being processed, and a lot of data gets processed on computers, analyzed, cuts and sliced, design happens. So it's more comfortable environment to a lot of people than the earlier environment, because yes, but there would be still, let's say, about 10 to 15% of students will also get into the hurry-burry of actual drilling, so to speak, or actual construction on site. But
that can be also exciting.
It is exciting, and there have been some women student of ours who've been found hanging on a rig in the middle of, Abu Dhabi desert. I have some pictures of those, lady engineers who have done, or in the difficult jungles of Venezuela or what have you. But everything has some charm and pluses and minuses. And also some point in time after you have done a hardcore field work, you can come back and then look into more a desk-bound or a computer.
So is there a lot of R&D work also happening?
R&D work also happens in 2-3 areas. One is, today, as they say, low-hanging fruits are gone. So earlier it was easier to, in US or some of the, or even in Saudi Arabia, you dig a thing and oil will come out. That doesn't happen.
Right.
And what oil is left behind is very deep within the earth or under the sea, high seas, where it is what is called high temperature, high pressure environment. And it's not easy to take this out. So a lot of technologies are being developed how to harness this difficult to find, difficult to extract crude oil. And so there is a huge amount of research. And also the older fields, when they are depleting, how to take out more, which is called enhanced oil recovery. And these are the areas which are, interesting amount of research work is happening in that.
We'll take a short break here, but when we return, we'll continue our discussion on careers in the energy sector. Welcome back to Career Cafe. We are looking at careers in the energy sector. And with us is Dr. Parag Diwan, Vice Chancellor of the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, Delhi. So, Dr. Diwan, once you've graduated in energy studies, then what sort of companies would hire you?
Okay, as we, when we discussed earlier, I told you various dimensions of energy sector. So on one side, there are companies which are known as exploration companies or exploration and production companies. In India, they are ONGC or Oil India Limited. And then there are many Western companies, and also Reliance Industries now have or Kane Energy. So these guys are looking for primarily petroleum engineers or geoscience engineers who will discover oil, extract oil, and do the drilling and production aspects. So those are the on-field kind of jobs. So that is one set of careers. Similarly, these companies themselves or their outsourced companies who will do the analysis work, so geodata analysis, well log data analysis, prediction or design of oil fields or platforms. These are done by what is called companies like L&T or Engineers India or Flo Daniel or Bechtel.
So even these companies.
So these companies also recruit, and Punch Lloyd for that matter, who are the service providers or contracting companies to large oil and gas. So these are another. And then there are ITS companies like Wipros and TCS and you name it. Each of them have what they call energy and utilities work vertical. So these comprises of largely people with training in energy sector, and students should not confuse that these are the coders or programmers. That's a different branch altogether. Of course, they recruit them also by the tons, but these people are taken as what is called domain specialists, which will help these programmers or developers to develop software or analytical tools for. So that's one set. And then there are refining companies like Bharat Petroleum or Indian Oil Corporation, one of the largest, or Reliance Industries of huge refineries, and SR and many others who will take them as refinery engineers to run, operate their refineries, again on the production function or in the function of design, process design, catalyst development, many other areas. And then as we move to the power sector, you will have again companies who are generation companies, which are like NTPCs and the other generating companies who will generate power either from coal, gas. So they need what are called.
So we have a lot of PSUs in this sector.
Yes,
no?
We have PSUs, and now it is being privatized, and there are many private players too. Earlier it was a sector, since it was a core sector, it was dominated by public sector undertakings. But now it is much more diversified with foreign players, Indian private players, PSUs, especially in both in oil and gas and power. Not so much in coal as of now, and coal is a sector which needs to develop. That's a different story. So that's another. Then there are transmission engineers who will transmit. You see those big transmission lines. They design.
So these are what, electrical?
They're electrical or power systems engineering. Then there are distribution companies which bring the electricity to our homes within the cities. So then again it has their own, and there are interesting areas like smart grids and smart metering, and which are technologically led. So this has also become a very exciting field to work. And again, energy and utility vertical of IT and ITS companies who work with these power sector companies to look into the some implemented
lots of opportunities.
Opportunities across. One has to make up the mind where one wants to
go.
Yeah, but then you should be well versed in your. It's not that you get a degree and you get a job. At last minute, those 5 minutes with the recruiter is yours across this table, like we are sitting. You have to convince the recruiter.
So what are the problems that, say, a young person passing out of a course like this faces challenges in terms of recruitment and working?
Well, this industry, on one side is sometimes cyclic. So that's a challenge depending on what year he or she is graduating. Sometimes upstream is in big demand, so a lot of upstream. Sometimes, refineries are being developed, so a lot of refineries. There was a time power sector plants were built every day, everywhere, so there were a lot of generation engineers. So it keeps on fluctuating. So
what should you do? I mean, your interest is in upstream, and that year upstream is not recruiting, so what should you do?
You can do two things about it. One is one way is to tide the turn is to do a higher degree, more specialized MTech degree. Then there is also some research options which national, international, which may not be a full job, but it is a job to look into some of the interesting aspects of a particular project, which may be project based. So you tide that wave during that, and that's how internationally it is also done.
Yes.
And some of our students have moved to Western world. They've gone to Canadian and American universities, got a master's there. Now they are working in mainstream Canadian and US. US is into a major, uproar of oil and gas, with shale gas data finds there. So huge number of students, let's say 10% of students have moved to Canada and US, and after graduating from their universities are into mainstream. So those are other aspects of this industry. In a way, is a global industry. So you should be prepared for global work anywhere in the world, global migrations, and global worker. And with experience, you can get into really, really good positions worldwide.
So since this is such a huge and such a vital industry, what is the government doing? Does it have plans to for career enhancements, skill enhancements, stuff like that?
There are many aspects again of it. One is the policy sector.
Yes.
Government policy sector to have because this, as I said, is core to the industry. If we have to run again 8 to 9% GDP growth, these sectors have to work. There is no other way. So time to time, Government of India comes with policy decisions. There was a decision which is called NELP, New Exploration and Licensing Policy, which gave fillip to a lot of exploration process. But as these exploration projects matured, the glitches were found in this policy. So this policy needs a rework to invite larger private sector or foreign players, which will take, because ONGCs and oil Indias can only do so much.
Right.
And the scope is much, much wider, and you need private investors or FFIs to come and invest into the sector, but then they require clean policies or policy transparencies, which to a degree Government of India is doing, so more can be done. Same thing is true for power. Power today has the biggest problem that a lot of people have created the generation capacities, but the coal linkage and the gas linkage both are not there. Coal industry has not kept pace, or it did not develop that fast enough to take care of the humongous number of megawatt projects that have come online. Similarly, gas, which were to be found or which was found, was not sufficient enough. So that scenario will change in another 2 to 3 years. The coal policies will come, coal imports are happening. If US and other mature economies are becoming gas surplus themselves, so those gas will come through LNG route. So it's only tiding the time. But yes, economic environment or the policy environment has to be there from the Government of India. Second part was the competency development, etc. All big, large, more so the public sector enterprises, whether this Indian Oil or ONGC or NTPC or BHEL, all of them have outstanding competency development centers. So once you are 2 years in those companies, they give you more and more technology, more upgrades into. So your constant capability development keeps on happening.
So tell me, now suppose somebody missed the bus as far as doing a specific energy-specific engineering degree, did science, BSc, or maybe even did a BCom, all right, and now is interested in getting into this sector. What are the other fields related? Are there related areas?
That's very interesting question that you asked, Pervin. That's where our business school comes into play. And there are interesting fields. One field is called energy trading.
Yes, energy trading.
Yeah, so energy trading has again many dimensions. On one side, it's the trading of crude oil. It's also the trading of carbon part, that is the emission trading aspect. Then there is the power trading, which now we have power exchanges. You can be generator, you port, and those who want to pay a certain price. That's another dimension of it. Coal trading is yet another dimension of it. So here people come from even BBA or BCom background and get our master's program in energy trading. Or some people top up with the MBA in oil and gas management, those who come from commercial side and still make big in the, let's say, financial aspect sector or commercial aspect, contracts and administration sector or procurement or logistics sector. So these are the other ways which are not...
even law, no? Legal,
even law.
Yes,
even
specific
law.
to the industry.
Some time ago, we started a very unique law program specializing in energy laws. So let's say some of these students have made it to companies like L&T or, some other who work with, and some of them are working with lawyers who work with this oil and gas or energy sector companies. So it's interesting dimension. You can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, you can be a business graduate. So field is so large.
The field is very, very large. Yes. Wonderful. But say apart from UPES, that's your university, what is the ambit? What are the other institutions that students could be looking at?
Well, this, there was once upon a time, and still is, a very traditional and venerable school called Indian School of Mines, which was in Dhanbad. They started the mining and a little bit of petroleum engineering. Then we came around and upturned the scene. Looking into our success, both government of Gujarat, through their GSPC, have created a petroleum university, which is called Deen Dayal Petroleum University in Gandhinagar. Also, government of India, looking into the need, have created another university called Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Petroleum Technology, which is located in Raebareli. So these two universities, us and the ISM, are the large providers of oil and gas, or largely oil and gas. It's only us who've diversified or encompassed the entire energy sector in straddling all the contours of energy sector. But these are the other good options within the country one can take. And then there are North American and the Canadian universities. If one has the affordability or one has the...
So is that an advantage if somebody does his bachelor's here and then goes abroad? Do companies look at you favorably?
Yeah, definitely.
But it also opens up global opportunities.
Yes, naturally. And some of people have even gone with our degrees globally. So it's not necessarily that you have to go. It's the experience that counts. After that, some of our students work very well with some of the international companies. Those companies place them in their global locations. So that's another way to move globally in this industry.
So tell me, what is your parting advice to people looking at this sector?
I would say that this sector is bound to grow. There is no way. There may be occasional glitches, but this sector is what drives the nation and drives the economy. And come, join this sector, partake it.
And young people should start looking and exploring these options while they're still in school,
Absolutely.
Instead of sort of opting for this as a default option because computers nahi mila, electronics nahi mila.
No, you're right, but we do a huge amount of what we call school contact programs. So we visit every year maybe 1,000 schools across the country to enlighten them in their 11th and 12th class that these are also options which are very interesting and viable options.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming to
All
Career
the best,
Cafe.
Really, I really enjoyed the show.
Oh, wonderful. And with that, we wrap up today's show here. Next week, we will look at yet another exciting career. Till then, keep us, do send us your feedback on careercafe@ls@gmail.com. And let me leave you with one of my favorite quotes. We spend more time and energy going around problems than in trying to solve them. So bye for now and be your best.